Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Trials and Talking. Right away, I just want to say, if you want a track that's on one of these episodes on top 3 tracks, feel free to know me about that if you want. And now we get into the video. I'm probably the millionth person to do a video on the Xbox, but I'm going to take it a little differently this time. So I'm basically going to go really quickly through how I thought about their presentation, how it compared up to Sony, and then all the controversial information about it and how I feel about it. Okay, to start off, they actually showed the console, unlike Sony. But I'll get into this later, where Sony actually showed gameplay footage, but Xbox didn't. I want to say that the system looks boxy and pretty big, but I feel like it makes sense because, like, even the regular Xbox and the Xbox 360, actually, when the Xbox 360 came out, it was bigger than they made the smaller one, so that's kind of expected. But I don't think it was as big, and I kind of like how it is boxy, so you can kind of put things on top of it. So if you have another console, like the Xbox 360, you can put that on top of it, so you can play your Xbox 360 games. Now, moving on to the controller, I felt like the inner handles, the grips of the controller, seemed a bit sharp. Not sharp, but they just seemed like a bit just sharp, and I feel like they'd hurt the hands. But of course, I never held the controller, so I don't know. So I haven't heard any complaints about that. So that'd be good. I will say the joysticks look a lot more rugged and put together more, so they feel like they last a little longer. One controller, I guess you could say, the Kinect may come with the console, which unfortunately some people don't want. It might cost up more. And one big thing is you could switch to live TV instantly, and if your service is compatible from a game, and hopefully you can switch to every other feature of the Xbox, like Internet Explorer, and maybe even switch between a retail game and a downloadable game. As I just thought of that right now, an arcade game. And hopefully if you can switch between YouTube and Netflix, which we all use that way more than TV. If you're really like into hardcore gaming, you really don't watch too much TV, just Netflix and whatnot. And then Snap is really cool because you can have 2 apps in the same thing, have 2 things open at the same time. So kind of like on the Windows 7 where you can just put things 2 pages and they'll just snap it. So that's pretty cool. And unfortunately, with all the connectivity with other devices, smart devices or whatnot, they're not telling you it needs to be done. But of course, it's just all for show. And I guess it's also cool that they have a guide that lets you show like your local listings and whatnot. But you know what? It looks quite amazing. But a lot of people don't really watch TV. But as long as you can switch to YouTube and other apps, it should be good. And apparently now Xbox Live has been updated, so they have better matchmaking. And I don't know what else, connectivity, whatever it would mean. And speaking of that, the speed of the Kinect, which is now 13th billionth of a second in Kinect response. But unfortunately, people like me, I'm still in a wheelchair, and any way you can help with that, here's an interesting idea. Have it so it could work for anyone of any heightness, even people who are like little people. I don't really like using that word, but I use this anyway. So it'd be like, lift your arms up as high as you can, lift them as low as you can, lift them, spread them out as far as you can, and then it would calibrate it to that, so it's at the sensitivity, so that might work for people who are less able than the average person. So, and one thing's really neat is I actually got right on my last episodes of this was I wanted them to have a way to record gameplay and have it saved somewhere, but not like share it instantly. And actually they have an in-game DVR that allows you to save your recorded footage and actually edit it and then save it to a cloud, so that's really cool. And speaking of cloud, they're actually running on 300,000 servers rather than having 15,000 servers. Oh, I keep saying 16,000. And apparently now EA Sports mainly has a contract with Microsoft, and now there's more connectivity between sports, your sport video games, and real sports. It's like, unfortunately, this is for another topic, but really quickly, I feel like sports games aren't really fantasy kind of video games. Obviously, they're not. And you can go out and do those sports. Sure, you can't live the dream of being a famous coach or player, but you still can play the sport. So I really am not too attracted to something like that. Some people might be, but then they're just trying to widen their audience, so that's okay. And now for the good stuff, which is not too much. The games. They showed the game, only 2 games. Forza looks pretty damn amazing. The graphics are wow, and the detail is really awesome. But unfortunately, for both that and Quantum Break, no real gameplay. None at all. And which actually PlayStation did do that, but you know what, that could have been scripted all when they programmed it, so you don't really know. And speaking of games, they stated that they have 15 exclusives and 8 new IPs that'll be shown at E3. So they admitted that, you know, we'll show all these games later. And Steven Spielberg was making a Halo show. I don't know, I could go either way because I was trying to watch Forward Unto Dawn, never got into it. Maybe this can get into it. And here we go into the controversial stuff. I know that it was going around that people were complaining that we will not be able to play used games without having to pay a fee. And my concern, because I'm a game reviewer and I don't buy these games most of the time, is renting them. And I did some research. I learned it from a friend who works at GameStop, and I did some research on my own. And you can play used games, but with the disc. To download the game onto your system and then to not have to use the disc anymore is going to cost you. So you can rent games, and you can play used games, and you can borrow used games from a friend. But if you want that license attached to your account, you're going to have to pay for it. And now it's recently come to my attention that indie developers need to have publishers in order to release their games. For example, I guess this is where I was thinking of with another episode, thinking of who owns Trials Evolution. Ubisoft is the publisher, Microsoft Game Studio is who's putting it on the Xbox. So you have to have a publisher. But you gotta realize that most of those indie games can be very poor quality, and only very, very few can be good. So maybe Microsoft is doing this so they can get decent, properly working games, just so everyone can be happy and the gamers playing them can be happy. Think of it that way, and maybe you'll change your opinion on it. And it seems like they're getting a few things right, and other things they're just not so getting right. And it's just way, way too early to say until E3. So then in the end, it kind of seems like a pointless video, but you need a good start, and unfortunately, I really can't tell who's better, PlayStation 4 or the Xbox One. Alright. That was definitely quite a bit to go over. So now we're just going to slow it down a little bit. Overall, I'd say that both the companies did pretty much equal, and I feel like they're obviously going different routes. PlayStation 4 is definitely trying to go more narrow audience, the hardcore gamers, to be an all-around gaming system, whereas Xbox is just going for the whole entertainment thing, trying to get the widest audience they can, which should mean they need to lower the price of the console so more people buy it. And just as a side note, I feel like Xbox Live Silver should give you the ability to play online, and basically all the other game features, extra game features we get now for gold. And for all the extra content, you know, like the Halo TV show and all the sports stuff, that obviously should be paying for gold. Just so you can appeal to the gaming people who don't want to pay gold, you know, like people on PlayStation Network not paying for it. So Microsoft's approach seems more wide than Sony's, but that does not mean a good thing for either side, really. It could mean the PlayStation will be more expensive, that could mean the Xbox will be less expensive and not catered more to gamers, but it is what it is. So come E3, the knowledge about each side will become more clearer, and hopefully the fans, such as I, regardless of what system I get, will be happy in the end. At least most of us, because, you know, you can't please everyone. And wow, that was a lot. You can take a breather now. It's actually much shorter than my last recording that I did. So if you enjoyed the video, like and favorite, leave your own comments. What do you feel about each side? It kind of makes me mad because both sides are pretty ignorant. Both the fanboys are being very ignorant. They're just taking what is the first thing said and one of the first things that have not been said and just blowing it out of proportion. And I honestly was thinking, oh no, now I want a PS4 when people were talking about the fact that the Xbox, like, you're gonna have to pay for used games. And even going back to being able to play the previous generation games, you know, I don't get why people are complaining about that, because I can understand where the PC gamers are complaining about that, because they can play like really old PC games on PC, you know. But the PS4 won't be able to play PS3 games, so that argument is basically invalid for any side. And I have heard people use that argument, and people on the PlayStation side, so it's just annoying. And we're gonna find out more and more things as time goes on, and you just need to hold fast and try not to over fanboy about things, even if you are a PC player. So that's it, And I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you next time, and have a good one, and see you later, and everything else.